Hello, I'm Larry Holzman, President of Jewish Family and Child Service, and your host today for the 2020 Unluncheon. As you may have guessed, it's not noon, and we're not serving lunch. The program you're about to see has had input from many people. You'll hear about community needs and what JFCS is doing to meet them. You'll also hear how we've helped people improve their lives. Every once in a while, you'll see pictures of our community supporters who will pop in to say hello and remind us of the wonderful things we have done and can do together. But before we go any further, please join me in expressing a special thanks to our joint sponsors, the Harold and Arlene Schnitzer Care Foundation and the Holzman Foundation. Thank you very much, and please enjoy the show. It is my pleasure to introduce to you JFCS's new Executive Director, David Block. David took over leadership of our staff just before the pandemic started and is providing excellent leadership during these challenging times.
Hello. This past February, I became the new Executive Director for Jewish Family and Child Service of Portland, Oregon. I was greeted very warmly by the community and made to feel extremely welcome in my new role. I want to thank each of you for making this transition as easy as possible during this difficult time of COVID-19. I want to thank our donors and all our supporters who make it possible each and every day for JFCS to fulfill its critical mission within our community. As we look towards the future, JFCS is committed to expanding our impact within our community. We look forward to growing our counseling center and expanding our services to children and families, people with disabilities, and the elderly. JFCS is also committed to seriously examining our practices with regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion. We aspire to become a stronger voice for social justice within our community, determining how we can help to repair the world through actions that are relevant, appropriate, and effective.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Kim Schneiderman, who is going to be playing some music for us.
Hi, I am Kim Schneiderman. I am honored to be a part of this program today. A few months ago, I was asked to write some music from some text from the prophet Amos. Ve'igal kamay mishpat utzedakah kanachal etan. Let justice well up like water, righteousness like a mighty stream. One of the many reasons why I love being a part of this Jewish community is because this is our work to pursue justice together and for everyone. The words come straight from our Torah. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof, justice, justice shall be pursued. Ve'igal kamay mishpat utzedakah kanachal etan. Ve'igal kamay mishpat utzedakah kanachal etan. In a world all undone, with dangers endured and suffering abounds, we confront our past, stumble along as the sky's falling down. Falling down. But let justice well up like water, righteousness like a mighty stream. Together we face a raging storm, together we dream of better like a mighty stream, together with fast and raging storm, together we dream a better dream. Oh, 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 a better dream. Reach out to me and I'll reach out for you. Tzedek, tzedek, we shall pursue. Reach out to me and I'll reach out for you. Tzedek, tzedek, we shall pursue. Reach out for me and I'll reach out for you. Tzedek, tzedek, we shall pursue. Reach out for me and I'll reach out for you. Tzedek, tzedek, we shall pursue. Thank you.
I'd now like to introduce you to Rabbi Elizabeth Dunsker, Rabbi at Congregation Kol Ami in Vancouver, Washington.
Good afternoon, evening, everyone. I want to first thank you for inviting me again for this tremendous honor to speak a little bit and to say motzi for JFNCS. The work that JFNCS does is so outrageously important all the time, but right now, while we know our world has so many people who are sick, so many people who are struggling, so many businesses going under, so many people out of work, and people struggling for issues of injustice and equality and all the social structures that are entailed in supporting people as we go through difficult times together. It just makes the work of JFNCS that much more important. I was speaking with a student, a candidate for conversion recently, and one of the things she said to me was that she's been overwhelmed in thinking about and noticing how much of Judaism teaches about acts of tzedakah and righteousness and righteous giving, and how much we're not just asked to give to care for each other, but required to give to care for each other. And she felt like the more she learned about Judaism, the more her heart was open to things she hadn't understood about our interconnectedness to each other and the ways that we all have to look out for and care for each other. So that's the work that JFNCS does. That's the work that you all do by giving to JFNCS and helping ensure that our Jewish community of the greater Portland area is able to take care of more people in all the ways that people need to be cared for, from social services to medical services, to housing, to all that you know. You know everything that you do, and I'm sure other people are going to speak about it better than I. But I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and thank you everyone for giving and for caring for each other. So, I have a challah here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'teavon.
I want to welcome our special guests, Eve and Alan Rosenfeld. Thank you for agreeing to talk with us today about service to our community.
So I'm wondering about your thoughts on how do community members affect change in organizations so that community needs are being met?
From other people, from the professionals, from the other volunteers, your board members, of needs that become very apparent. And once they do become apparent to a lot of people, then I think it's important that you gather around all those who agree and make your concerns known, and then be willing to work to implement them. Once you've articulated those concerns, it's important that you stay the course, you stay with it, and stay and give support in whatever way you can, whatever way is indicated, that those needs can be met.
Before I introduce the manager of our Holocaust Survivor Services program, I want to take a moment to recognize a small group of community leaders who took an unprecedented step for JFCS by creating the Holocaust Survivors Community Fund at the Oregon Jewish Community Foundation. The grant we receive requires community support for survivor services. This year, the need exceeded JFCS revenues by over $200,000. These funders stepped up. The next time you have the opportunity, please join us in thanking them. And now, Kim Van Coten, manager of our Holocaust Survivor Services. Kim?
Thank you so much, Larry. You know, I think each of us is coping with the challenges of this pandemic in our own way. And I know a lot of us are experiencing a sense of isolation, maybe even discouragement. And I think this is especially true of our Holocaust survivor clients who are largely homebound right now. And we've also had to limit the scope of the in-person services that we normally provide to them for safety reasons, of course. And so at this point, we've had about 3 months of adapting our services, responding to clients' needs as they arise, making week-by-week adjustments, and just serving our clients in the safest way possible. During this time, we've been able to add 6 survivors to our home care program, and 2 of them, with the help of their case manager here at JFCS, were able to apply for and receive reparations for the first time. During this time, we've also seen community members stepping up to help out, which is really great. A wonderful example of this is Halaman, a local baker here in Portland, who has been providing fresh challah loaves that we include with the survivors' hot meal delivery service every Friday. Speaking of these hot meals, it's a new service that we have been doing for the survivors these last couple of months, just to help them out because they are largely homebound, as I said. And so now I would love to introduce you to Inga Turman, the Russian caterer who has been preparing the hot meals for the survivors these last couple of months.
Hi everyone, I'm Chef Inga. I'm cooking for you guys last 2 months. I think that what I'm doing for you, you like it. Since COVID-19, I'm start do something different like I did before, cooking food to go. We have 16 drivers come in twice a week. My menu always different. I try to do different kind meal always. I know now what you like more, what do you like less. I try don't use that stuff anymore. I feel something special when I'm cooking for Holocaust survivor because this is like my soul touch to my grandma. My grandma put in my life a lot experience, even cooking experience. She did for me a lot in my life, and I really just feel like I can pay back to her, you know, and I'm really glad I do that for you guys from my heart.
Once again, I'd like to thank some of the many volunteers who make JFCS so special. I'd now like to introduce you to Janet Menashe. Janet is in charge of our disability services, and here she is interviewing one of her clients, Molly, at Kahila House.
Hi, I'm Janet Menashe, and I work at Jewish Family and Child Service. What we do is we give information and resources out to people who need it and connect them with other resources in the community. We also do group activities, which currently we're not doing. And we're looking into doing some parenting classes for parents of younger children. Now I'd like to introduce Molly, who lives here at Kahila, which is a housing development for people with disabilities. How have you felt respected here at Kahila?
I've really enjoyed it. I have friends here, and my parents come by to check on me every so often, especially during this time. Mm-hmm. And my 2 providers are still coming. I have someone named Hope who helps me cook.
With COVID-19 happening currently in our community and globally, how has that affected you and what you think and what you're doing?
Well, since I'm getting stuff from the store, me and my mom wash it immediately, and when I come home from work, I change my clothes immediately, wash my hands and to air it out, get all the germs off, and I wash my hands right away, so that's very different. And I have to wear a face mask every day just when I go to work or if I go to the store, so that's very different. Just a new routine. I'm still going to work even though my mom thinks I shouldn't, but it's like they really need me at work right now because people are they still need things.
I want to thank Molly for being willing to talk to me. So thank you, Molly, for taking the time. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
That's where all the challah went.
I'm Rich Meyer. I'm the challah man. I've been selling challah in Portland since 2012. With COVID, we decided to start going back to our roots and doing home deliveries. So as part of that, we wanted to give back to the community as well. So we're here at Kahila House.
Thank you. Welcome.
I'd now like to introduce you to Tavia Berrigan, who is the manager of the Emergency Aid Department at JFCS. Tavia has been on the front lines of the COVID-19 crisis, distributing funds to needy members of our community, thanks to a partnership with the Jewish Federation of Greater Portland and the Oregon Jewish Community Foundation. Tavia?
Emergency Aid at JFCS has been a program that has seen a lot of different avenues in the way it's been used over the years. Currently, we have a financial aid program, so we can provide limited financial gifts to people in order to get them through some rough spots. We can provide a lot of information and referrals, not just out to the greater community, but within JFCS. So it's, I feel like emergency aid within JFCS is kind of a bridge where I get to connect people with the programs they need, particularly within the agency I work in. It's a privilege to get to work with all of the different branches of our agency in this really vibrant way. I get to make sure that when we have somebody in disability support services who needs medical equipment, I can help make that happen for them. I get to work with our counseling team really closely to make sure that the clients we serve have the tools and resources to help them move forward in their life as best possible. I get to even work with Holocaust survivor services in order to really make sure that their needs are met. And they have a different emergency aid program specifically for them, but we do some working together on projects, and that feels pretty lovely. I think that we sometimes take emergency aid as this idea that it's all financially based, and that these gifts are going directly towards services such as rent or utilities, which often they are. But we also have the capacity to do things like if we have a client who's really struggling with isolation and her coping skill is something like an audiobook that she doesn't have access to anymore, we can provide tools in order for her to have those coping skills, because being able to survive is an emergency, like that's an emergency request. So we want to make sure that it's not just about making sure that people have the bare necessities. We want to make sure people can thrive. I think that we have a really unique financial aid program in comparison to others, because it isn't just you come in, we do a budget together and you leave. A lot of times we provide wraparound services kind of through e-aid, where we're making sure that mental health is being addressed. We're making sure that support tools are happening. We're especially giving out community referrals, so that if they need access to food pantries or if they need access to other mental health sources in the community, we're trying to get all of those needs met as well. One of the things we're dealing with right now is that there's a lot of people asking for help who've never had to ask for help before, and that's really challenging in a society where we're taught to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and to make sure that we take care of ourselves. And as a people, we're not really designed for that. We need to be able to ask for help, and it's complicated when it's not something you're used to. So I'm, from just the emotional part of it to even the bureaucratic part, people who've never had to ask for help before don't really know how to navigate a system that is designed to provide barriers. So one of the things that I'm really working on is making sure that we aren't adding to those barriers, that we're making ourselves accessible for people, but also that when they come up against those barriers in other forms, whether it's through applying for food stamps, whether it's applying for unemployment, that I have the tools and resources to be able to kind of help them through those systems.
And once again, Kim Schneiderman.
May the one who blessed those before us heal the body heal the soul. May the Holy One be filled with compassion and bless and heal us all. Misheberach Avotenu Ve'imotenu Hu yivarech et hacholim Hu yivarech et hacholim HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimale Rachamim Alehem Ve'yishlach Lahem Mehera Refuah Refuah Shlema Refuah Refuah Shlema.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Doug Ruth, who is the clinical director of our counseling department here at JFCS.
Trauma is essentially an event where if a person experiences trauma, they have a lifelong reaction or response to that. Trauma is anything where an incident puts, or a series of incidents puts undue stress on the brain, and then the brain responds. The brain literally rewires itself. And that, the brain is impacted by that during the moment of trauma, or moments of trauma, but it also stays with you. So trauma can then basically come back or present itself in new ways at different periods throughout the life cycle. And so by being a person-centered, trauma-informed agency, and by utilizing those types of services, we acknowledge that. And by acknowledging that, we work to give our clients a sense of trust, safety, and also some control over what's going on for them. Now, trauma can be any series of events. I mean, the obvious ones right now are COVID and social justice movements that are occurring as we speak. Being a person-centered, trauma-informed agency allows JFCS to acknowledge the effects of trauma on all the population that we work with. That may look like discrimination, it may look like war trauma, it may look like emotional abuse. All of these things are under the header of trauma. And by us acknowledging the impact that that has on the brain, this is basic brain science. When trauma occurs, the brain changes. And because the brain changes, we need to interact with the person differently in order to help them heal and help them find a way to process what's happened to them, and hopefully to build a better world for them. Survivors in many ways are our teachers, our guides through this process. I think when we're thinking about trauma, a lot of it is sort of how a person sees the world. If you've experienced trauma, it is the lens through which you walk through the world. We're very much formed by the experiences that we have, that have happened to us and that we've been involved in. When we work with clients, we strive to build empathy with clients. We try to understand the client from their strength, from their full experience. One thing that's been said, and I think it really captures what's behind the efficacy of person-centered trauma-informed approaches is, we're asking clients, what happened to you, not what's wrong with you. And so at Jfcs, we really strive to build that trust and safety with our clients, whoever they may be. Jfcs does provide a safe space for people to seek and engage in counseling services in a way that they perhaps can't in other places, whether it be our experience with person-centered trauma-informed care or just the fact that we do support underserved populations. We do have a sliding scale program. We do provide Medicare services, which are often hard to find in the mental health realm. We do allow people to utilize the strength that they have instead of trying to fit the model that we create. We create our model based on our clients' experiences, and that's, in a sense, what trauma-informed care is.
I'd now like to introduce you to Dinah Gilbert, the Youth and Family Counselor here at Jewish Family and Child Service. She is going to talk about the workshop that she is doing, which is based on the bestseller, The 5 Love Languages of Children.
Thank you, Larry, for your introduction. I just want to take a moment to thank you, to thank the Holtzman Foundation, and to thank Jewish Family Child Service for having the vision for me to go out into the Jewish community and to be able to present and do trainings for staff and to do workshops on children, adolescents, and families. I think to be able to bring up issues, mental health issues in particular, and to present them to the Jewish community as workshops, as trainings, has been invaluable. I see myself as a resource, and I listen very carefully to what the community is asking for. 5 Love Languages is based on the best-selling book, The 5 Love Languages of Children, written by Drs. Gary Chapman and Ross Campbell. And in it, the authors describe that there's 5 ways that a child likes to be loved. And one of those ways is primary love language. And the first way is by physical touch. Then there's words of affirmation. And then there's quality time, followed by gifts, and then acts of service. And the whole idea behind learning what your child's primary love language is that you are filling your child's tank with love. And the reason that you want to fill your child's tank with love is that your child will then listen to you more effectively as you guide them to learn, to behave, and sort of just teach them the basics of daily life. As we are speaking, the 5 love languages are physical contact, words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, and gifts. So physical contact, we probably know it more as hugs and kisses, but there's other ways of showing physical touch to children. It could be a tap on the shoulder. It could be putting your hand on their head. It could be roughhousing. It could be putting them on your shoulder. And when parents come home from work and there are the kids that love to crawl up the parents' legs as though it's a human jungle gym, or they're at the playground. And physical contact is all about letting a child know that you care about them in that particular love language. And the second love language is words of affirmation. And that has to do with letting a child know that you love them. And the way in which you convey that is by praise, by words of encouragement, by motivating them. It's a way in which a child loves to hear, I like how you're cooperating. I like how you shared your toy. I like what a great sport you are while we play that game. These are the children who want to come home and right away show you the drawing that they did in preschool or kindergarten and want you to hang it right up on the refrigerator. The third love language is quality time. And these are the children who want your undivided attention and focus. These are the children who scream out, "Look at me. Look at what I just did. Come into my room. Let's play. I want to show you something." Quality time is really important because it says to a child, "You're special. I really like being with you." It's really important for a parent to carve out quality time during the day for each child. Bedtime ritual is an opportunity to carve out that time. The next love language, number 4, are gifts. And I think of it as the grace of gifts. And it's the meaning behind the gifts. It's not about how much you spend or how often you give a gift. A gift is an expression of your love. It says to the child, "I thought about you." It could be something as simple as going on a hike and your child picking out a rock and knowing that that rock is special because it has to do with you. It's also something that doesn't have to be store-bought. It can be something that you make. A gift has a very special meaning to a child because children who respond to this love when it is wrapped. So unlike other children who will just rip the paper apart, these children want you to be present as they carefully take the wrapping paper off and perhaps save it along with the bow. And then they go ahead and find a very special place for it in their room. And they want all the relatives and all their friends when they come to visit to come and see it. The fifth love language is acts of service. And acts of service have to do with teaching your child at every developmental stage certain routines. So for example, a parent may start out by teaching their child how to get dressed. There's a sense of accomplishment, of self-reliance. And the objective is for the child to eventually be able to go out into the world and take care of others. By your taking care of your child, whether it's putting up bookshelves in their room, helping them with Legos, helping them with homework, you are role modeling for your children. I am here. I see you. I hear you. I understand what you need. Being a parent right now is a daunting and challenging time. And with the pandemic and with social unrest and the demand for social justice, these are days of uncertainty. But what we know for certain is our love for our children. And this is where the 5 love languages of children is so timely. Because through learning what your child's primary love language is, and by your teaching your children all 5 love languages, you are helping them to develop empathy, compassion, kindness, and resilience as they move forward in the days ahead.
With Oregon having the dubious distinction of being 51st in the nation with respect to access to mental health services, Jewish Family and Child Service has a responsibility to grow its services and provide a larger share for those in need. I'd now like to introduce you to Wendy Westerwelle, who is an actress here in Portland, and she is going to share some of her experiences with the counseling department at Jewish Family and Child Service.
Look at this dog. So sweet. Could you die? Look at her. So sweet. Isn't she cute? Yeah. Hi, I'm Wendy Westerwelle. I'm an actor. This is my dog Sadala. We're sitting in my garden, and I am very, very fortunate to be able to talk about my experience with Jewish Family Services and how it helped me with anything that was going on in my life. It really, really served me. And so it's my pleasure and honor to be able to talk to you today and tell you about my experience. A friend of mine from Congregation Beth Israel knew that I was going through a lot. And because I'm an actor, I make money and then I don't make money. And so I have insurance and then I don't have insurance. And I didn't have health insurance at the time. And I was going through really bad trauma about my mother's sickness and my mother's death. When I was 20, my mother died, but my mother had multiple sclerosis from the time I was about 11, and it colored my life pretty much forever. And I said, I know I need therapy, but I don't know what to do. I don't know. I can't afford a therapist. And she said, have you heard about the Jewish Family Services? And I said, no. She said, well, they have a sliding scale and they'll help you. And so I went there and I was scared. And the guy at the counter, the guy was a very interesting guy. He was very low key. And he said, well, just fill out these papers. So I filled out the papers, and then I had a intake. They matched me up with the counselor. The counseling program at Jewish Family Services completely changed my life. So it was many years ago. I was maybe 60, 50, in my 50s, and I was unable to sleep. And I was having terrible trauma, dreaming about my mom. I had the same dream almost, 2 or 3 times a week. It was total and complete trauma. Nothing worked. Medication didn't work. Talk therapy didn't work. Ice cream didn't work. My husband, Mark, went through this with me from the time he met me until I saw Barbara. And then because of Barbara and the therapy that she did, the dream stopped. And I had had that dream from the time she died for 40 years. And she was an EMDR therapist. And she said, Wendy, you have traumatic stress. You have post-traumatic stress. You have this terrible pain. And it was so traumatic to see what your mom went through. The only thing that will help you is we sort of rewire your brain. And at that point, I would have done anything. It would have been way better if she said, I can heal you with bagels. But she didn't. She said, this is going to be painful. You're going to go through hell, but we're going to try. Then when I left, they said $25. And I couldn't believe it because $25 was what I could afford. I went to Barbara for probably 2 years. And I found out so much about myself. She was the most brilliant therapist I had ever gone to. And it was really great because it wasn't talk therapy, because I have a great personality and I write comedy. So I just used to entertain every therapist I ever had. But not with Barbara. Barbara did EMDR with me, so there was no messing around. We got back. We went way back and progressed to the point where I could, forgive myself. And I got that at Jewish Family Services. And $25 a session. So it was miraculous. And they helped me. They helped me so much. And they were kind, really kind, and treated me with respect. And they treated everybody with respect.
And now I'd like to introduce you to Rabbi Barry Cohen, who is going to share a reading with us.
The inspirational value that I most often use as a guide is empathy. As a chaplain, how to embrace this value has been one of my hardest lessons. How can I empathize with someone else? A requirement is that I have to check my ego at the door. I have to completely check my ego at the door. Because it's not about me. It's about the other person. It's not about title or training, but whether I can make a connection, whether I can feel what they feel. This is related to the teachings of Martin Buber. Part of his wisdom is what he called the I-thou relationship. This is when people make a true connection. And it's not transactional. It's not about getting anything in return. It's not about a tangible result or an outcome. Uber taught the very essence of relationship is the responsibility to engage the other, to respond. This obligation to each other is rooted in the biblical notion that every human being is made in the image of God. The image of God is within, but the presence of God is found in the between, in the relationship. In this way, God is not some external being far away from us. Rather, God is in relationship. God can be as close as a person to a person. And this is where empathy comes into play. When I empathize with someone else, what happens between us can be sacred. We can experience meaning and purpose, belonging and blessing. Through empathy, we are heard and acknowledged. Through empathy, what we feel is the same, whether that feeling is helpless, furious, embarrassed, fragile, or valued, joyful, or even astounded. An example, through empathy, I can try to feel the anxiety or the depression that someone else is feeling. But when I feel what they feel, that's just the first step. Empathy opens the door. At that point, we can begin to answer the question, what's next? We can travel through the road of healing, recovery, and health together.
We began our event with the challenge to practice Tikkun Olam, or repair the world. I would like us to conclude our time together by expressing our gratitude to the many, many people who have generously donated their time and money toward the needs of others.
We so appreciate everyone who has contributed, especially this year. So thank you, thank you.
Ose shalom bimroma uyase shalom aleinu ve'akol Yisrael